I just noticed this pattern. I didn't react the way that I was proud of reacting versus when I do it, I feel like I got my battle armor on. I'm ready to go out and I'm ready to serve and love people the way that, I forget my point with that. but anyways, I'll just say this. I do think that it was modeling. It was, well, maybe you're not spending much time with them now. Maybe you haven't met them. Maybe you want to get to know them. And it shouldn't probably be this big time celebrity like Andrew, you know.
Hello and welcome back to Redirected. My name is Andrew East, and this is a show where we sit down with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, really anybody who's experienced a significant change in life. And I think when we take a step back, we realize that all of us have experienced pretty significant changes in life. So I want to sit down with people who have gone through those changes well to hear these stories. A lot of times they're crazy, wild, entertaining stories, and maybe learn something from those stories and share that with you guys. So happy to have you here. Thank you for listening. If you guys haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. Give the show a rating or a thumbs up, depending on what platform you're listening to. And today we are sitting down with Dr. Josh Axe. And so I have known Dr. Axe now for coming up on 2 years. We first met in a coffee shop and we kind of hit it off right away. Our wives are best friends. Him and I are best friends. And we're actually soon to be neighbors. And I'm very thankful for Josh's role in my life as a mentor, as a friend, and he's just a good guy to hang out with. But he has also built an amazing company, the #1 health website in the world. And so you may or may not have seen Ancient Nutrition on the shelves at Whole Foods. That's his company. And he has a lot of wise words to say about business, about relationships, and about faith. And so I'm really excited to be bringing this interview to you guys. You guys can find Josh in the show notes down below are his social media handles, but he's known as Dr. Josh Axe on most platforms. Has really informative, really interesting content that you guys should definitely check out. But without further ado, here is Dr. Josh Axe.
Dr. Axe, thank you for joining us today. I have to say, this is the interview that I've been most nervous for.
Wow.
I'm not lying.
Wow.
This is because you have had such a great impact on my life, and you're a pro at this. Not to say that the other people I've interviewed aren't pros, but you're the real deal, man. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the impact that you've left on my life.
Dude, I was stoked at coming on. I've been waiting, sitting by the phone, waiting for the call. And when you called, I was so excited. So first of all, I love what you're doing. I love the mission of the podcast. I think it's so inspiring, the interviews you've had. So I'm totally honored to be on.
Well, appreciate that. I figured after I hit episode 50, I was like, maybe I'm qualified to interview Josh now. But I did want to start off with this question. If you had to guesstimate what our Settlers of Catan record is, like between you and I, what would you put that as?
Oh, I don't know. Probably, 8-2.
Oh my god!
Now I will say this: recently, your record has been really good. I mean, you've won a couple times, in the last few. So, if we're talking about the last 10, it's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
Before that, though, it took a little while.
I'll take that.
But your strategy now is on point. So,
Josh and I love playing board games against our wives. Usually, we dominate them. So,
I'll tell you, some of the biggest marriage moments Chelsea and I have been because of board games.
Really?
Settlers of Catan. Yeah, if you lay the robber on her or do anything, they'll take it personally. And but it's great.
It's good.
It's great.
I'm glad you could use it as a learning experience. I want to start off, if you could give the audience a brief overview of what your life growing up was like.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my life growing up was great. I'll say this. So I had two amazing parents, and I feel really blessed to have the childhood I had. I had my mom was my gym teacher in elementary school, and my dad worked at a telephone company, fixing power lines, and just he was a guy. He was in the Vietnam War, very disciplined. And so for me growing up, I had a mom who was super nurturing, super caring. I had a dad who was very taught self-control and self-discipline, but yet. There's some things that I just loved about my dad. My dad always told me he was proud of me, which I know not everybody gets. My dad never missed a sports game of me playing soccer, basketball, running track. And my dad would admit when he was wrong. That's something else too. I feel like today I can admit I'm wrong. I feel like I can tell people I'm proud of them because when you have somebody do that for you, it just, especially so young. So I had a great childhood of being really active in sports. I went to a Christian school growing up where I feel like I had really good sort of morals and values instilled in me. And I'll just give you an example of a few things, and this might sound, a little, different than what people do. But like my dad just taught discipline, and that you needed to create daily habits that were healthy. So one of the habits was when we get done with school, we walk in from the house at 3:00. Before you can walk in the house, you have to do a set of pull-ups. So like that was one of my dad's things was, you do a set of push-ups on one day and pull-ups on the other day before you walk in the house. And it was good. It just taught me that hey, you just create these healthy daily habits. And we had a real limit on TV. There was an hour a day of technology. And at that time, I didn't have cell phones or anything else. But yeah, growing up, I had great parents. One of the things, I had great grandparents. We were really close with my mom's parents. And so my grandparents ran a campground as their business and sort of like a water park. So like I would go up there all summer and they had big ponds, fishing ponds. So we'd catch frogs and snakes and and then I would just do chores, around the campground all day. And but it was a great childhood.
That's good.
Yeah.
You've taken those daily habits, and I was listening. You have, and I know this, you have your spiritual triathlon.
That's
what
right.
you call it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So for me, I had a mentor. This is years ago, and he said, if you win the morning, you win the day. And I thought that's such a good slogan. So I'm a big believer in mentorship, and so one of the things that one of my mentors did, who was highly successful, he wrote some New York Times best-selling books, has an amazing family, ran a successful business, changed a lot of lives. But every morning he would wake up and he would spend the first few minutes of his day, anywhere from 15, he typically would do about 30 minutes, doing a spiritual triathlon. So he would do 10 minutes and sort of just gratefulness, being grateful. He'd look at his vision board. He would maybe praise God, but he would spend that first 10 minutes doing that. He'd spend 10 minutes reading like a personal growth book or Bible or something like that. And then he'd spend 10 minutes in either prayer or visualization or meditation. But he would do that 30 minutes, and then he would do a quick sort of 30, 40-minute workout. And he would call it was sort of like his hour of power. He would do 30 minutes on his spiritual health, 30 minutes on his physical health, and then he would sort of go into the rest of his day. So I started doing that spiritual triathlon and trying to then, get a quick workout in right after every morning. And, when you can start off your day like that, I feel like you've won the day already, and I think most people would feel that. Hey, if you worked on the things that are most important, especially spiritual health and emotional health first. And I noticed too, let's say I'm meditating on something and it's, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that'd be one of the things. You'd read the context around that, and then you would meditate on that and thinking about how am I going to apply that to my life. And I started doing this specifically in college. And when I did, I could tell the days I would do that, it was like I was treating people better. If I came into a conflict, I dealt with it in a better manner versus sometimes, hey, if I wouldn't read it or wouldn't practice that discipline, I just noticed this pattern. I didn't react the way that I was proud of reacting versus when I do it, I feel like I got my battle armor on. I'm ready to go out and I'm ready to serve and love people the way that I believe that we should do to everybody. So I think for me, that's probably been my most transformative habit.
That's great. There are two, I think, maybe you could correct me, big pivotal moments that I kind of want to address. The first being when you were a teenager, your mom's health problems.
Yeah.
If you could dive into that a little bit. Yeah,
so when I was growing up, as I mentioned, my family was into health and fitness. So my mom was my gym teacher in elementary school. She was a swim instructor. My dad was a semi-pro water skier, lifted weights. And we were always into fitness, but at 40 years old, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which really just shocked us. And I lived in what I'll call kind of the medical model to where anytime we were sick, we got put on antibiotics and medications. And really, we just had all these health problems growing up. And my mom went through the traditional medical treatments, of course, when she was diagnosed. So my mom went and had a mastectomy. She went through rounds and rounds and rounds of chemotherapy. And I can still remember this day. I remember seeing her hair fall out. I remember looking at her. And I had thought it really looked like she had aged 20 years in 2 weeks after all of her chemo treatments and how sick she was getting. And there were a few times that they said, hey, go and say goodbye to your mom because we're not sure if she's going to make it. So that I was going into eighth grade at the time. It was the summer going from 7th to 8th grade. And I remember it just so distinctly. And eventually she made it through those treatments and she was diagnosed as being cancer-free and healthy. The shocking thing was, though, she seemed less healthy after she went through all the chemo. My mom was then diagnosed with anxiety and depression. So she got put on antidepressant, anti-anxiety drugs. She got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, chronic fatigue syndrome, digestive issues like leaky gut. My mom was sick and tired all the time growing up. One of my biggest memories is she was just overwhelmed and sick. 10 years later, she was diagnosed with cancer again. This time I was a year away from graduating, and I was about to move to Nashville and open up my functional medicine clinic here, where we did everything from nutrition to chiropractic to exercise therapy. And she called me on the phone in tears, and she said, "What do I do?" And I said, "I'll be home." I flew from Florida, where I was in school, back to Ohio, where I grew up. And we sat down, prayed together, and we felt really led to take care of her all naturally. So with my mom, we just, even though her doctors were saying, "Hey, we need to go in and treat this now with surgery and radiation," we said, "You know what? We want to have 4 months to try this natural approach." They didn't agree, but we did it anyways. And so she started juicing vegetables every single day. She started doing supplements like reishi mushroom and turmeric. She started getting lymphatic drainage massage with essential oils like frankincense. We worked on building peace. She did a lot of meditation and visualization of her body healing. We just kind of changed everything about how she operated and completely changed her diet. We went back 4 months later. They redid a PET scan, a CT scan, and they called us the next day, her oncologist, who was from Columbus, Ohio, and they said, "This is their exact words were, "This is highly unusual. We don't typically see this, but your tumors have shrunk by more than half. The largest mass is 2.5 centimeters. It's dropped down to 1.2. They said, "We want to see you again in 9 months." She went back 9 months later in complete remission. And so today, my mom, it's been about maybe 12, 13 years since then. My mom is 67. She water skis. She's ran 5Ks, finished second in her age group. And she says she feels better now in her 60s and her 30s. So for me, that was such a turning point in faith and seeing that the body has an amazing capacity to heal if we put it in the right environment. If somebody gets emotionally healthy, if somebody gets physically healthy, the body really wants and can heal. So that was a big turning point in my career and life. Both of those instances of her being sick and going through a traditional medicine versus going through this sort of natural medicine approach.
It's so interesting. In the NFL locker room, I'm around a lot of like overly confident guys or like super confident guys. And when we first met and when we were getting to know you, it struck me like your confidence is so high, but not in like the prideful way. It's just like, I've never seen somebody so convicted in their beliefs. And that's what's been one of the more inspiring things to me. Like, I literally have never met anybody who's as convicted as you. And so all this happens, as you say, and there's a point where you're practicing and one of your patients wanted to have you publish an article for one of their health plans that ultimately set you off on creating DrAxe.com. And, it's ultimately turned into Ancient Nutrition, which is like, if you guys don't know about them, checking them out. They have the best collagen, the best bone broth protein. Shawn and I use it every day. But your conviction and your confidence in how you are so sure of what the future is going to look like, I feel like when you pray, it's not, "Dear Lord, we hope that this happens." It's, "Dear Lord, we know that you have the best in mind and this will happen." And that's what's been so interesting to me. When you talk about your business, it's, we have the best product. And even though that product might not be out yet, that's what the standard is. And thus that's where all your energy is going into creating it like that,
Yeah.
It's been amazing to watch.
Thank you.
But I wanted to dive into that mindset and how, have you always been like that, or is that something that's been developed over time?
If someone, so I was at a conference not too long ago speaking on just leadership, and they said, "What's your biggest life lesson?" And it was really easy for me to answer. And I answered this. I said, "You become who you surround yourself with." And some of us have heard this principle, maybe some haven't, but you become like the 5 people you surround yourself with most. And I think that plays a part. I think that, by the way, it plays a part, but also like just growing up, even though I had amazing parents, my dad was still a little bit like, he would say things like, "Well, don't get your hopes too high," And so, but then for me, I think there's a couple things that go into that. One, I saw and had mentors who instilled in me that we should believe strongly in what we do if we are working in excellence. And so, and I saw my mentors operate this way in that they had built really successful clinics or written books or helped people. And I've had especially both some amazing people in the business world and amazing some pastors who I really saw how they operated, conducted themselves. And here's what I saw in them. This is just a biblical principle too, but they had better outcomes than other people. I'm a very kinesthetic and visual learner, as I think a lot of people are. And so like I would go and see Dr. Ben, one of the guys, and he would allow me to one time a week, like I would drive an hour because I worked in his clinic. I was his nutritionist. He'd let me stay at his house. But because of that, I got to see the way he interacted with his wife. I got to see the way he interacted with his kids. I got to see when he had a business meeting or had something going on, the way he conducted himself. And I think I saw his level of confidence and how things worked out for his good. Even though it might have not have been exactly like he thought, he prepared properly. He did things with excellence. He gave it 100%. And the outcome most of the time turned out the way he wanted, or if it didn't, it wasn't a bad outcome. He would actually turn out and use that for good somehow. So I think being able to see my mentors operate like that, I think that's a big thing. And I think a lot of it also comes down to identity. I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe see themselves as maybe other people have labeled them. And I'll share this. Like when I was in school, this was when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher who I told her that I wanted to become a doctor. And this was when I was in 5th grade. And I remember she literally, and I'm not kidding, she laughed at me and she's like, with your GPA, you don't have a chance. Because listen to this. My GPA in high school was a 2.4.
Oh my God.
I barely got into school I wanted to. I actually had to go to summer school to get in to where I went to undergrad. And at one point, I sort of hit me like, I'm not trying. And so eventually I started trying and had, did well, had well above a 3.0, and I was doing like, lots of extracurriculars, and I was on So anyways, for a while, I literally had my thought, I'm not smart. Because I literally had a teacher say, I don't think you're smart enough for that. Your GPA is not good enough for that. And I literally had a time period of that. And then I had somebody else speak in my life, and they're like, wow, you're really smart. You can memorize stuff well. And like, I had to reevaluate and think, okay, what am I? Who am I? Looking at my identity. And so for me, and again, I'm not trying to make this a religious podcast, because I know everybody has different belief systems. But for me, I know that I'm a child of God and I'm meant to have a relationship with God. And what does that mean for me? I believe that I'm called to being his child. And I think it's just like we think about our relationships. Like I know I've met your parents. They're great. I know that I have great parents. And my dad wants to see me succeed. My dad wants to see me win and thrive. And knowing that I have a dad who wants to see me win and succeed and thrive, that has been so huge to me in my identity. And also knowing that every person on the planet is created with specific gifts, purpose, and a mission. So again, knowing that God's created me with unique gifts that I should use to make the earth better. I really believe we should all try and make earth like heaven. So again, like just give you an example. If I walk out the door, and you don't do this because you're an Eagle Scout, but if there were trash in your yard, I'm not going to leave it there. Like I would pick it up,
right? Because
that's turning earth into heaven. It's making it more like heaven. What is heaven? It's a place of perfection where you have you're surrounded by the presence of God. And what's God? Well, every positive characteristic you could think of: hope, love, joy, peace. Anyways, not to get too far off, but all that being said, I do think that for a lot of people, and for me, why do I have so much confidence? Because I know that I'm a child of God, and I have unique gifts, and I'm going to use those gifts. But again, a part of it is who you're surrounding yourself with. There's a lot of people who are spending time around, whether it's family or friends or people in their life, that are trying to sabotage them and bring them down. They don't want to see them raise up and succeed. And so, and let me ask, anybody watching or listening to this, have you ever had anybody where maybe let's talk about health. You're on a diet, and they're trying to sabotage you on your diet. Hey, why don't you eat this? Hey, it's okay if you don't, versus, hey, how can I support you in succeeding? Hey, what are your goals? What can I do to help see you win? Those are the sort of people you want to surround yourself with. That's personally why, Chelsea and I love hanging out with you and Shawn. You guys know you were two of our best friends, and the reason for that is I am very conscious of who do I surround myself with. Like after I have a conversation or hang out with you, you've got such a spirit of joy, such a spirit of encouragement, such a spirit of wanting to support people, including myself. And so that's why we spend a lot of time around you guys. I mean, we love you guys, but also like it's iron sharpens iron when we're with you. I think it's the same thing. Like I had a mentor tell me this. They said, you need to write down on a sheet of paper the 5 people that you should be spending most time with, the people that are encouragers, the people that are inspiring, that make you better. And then write down those 2 or 3 people that you know are having a bad influence on you, and sort of push those people out of your life in terms of spending time with them. And I really did that, and I've been proactive about that. I think that's a big part of identity as well.
That's huge. It has been such an interesting dynamic with you because we get along as friends so well,
Oh, yeah.
but also I view you as like the most significant mentor in my life. That's probably obvious, but all I want to do is just like pick your brain. And that's like so much different than just hanging out. But
well, can I tell you that's how I was always wired. Like my mentors were always like some of my best friends,
Yeah.
and still are. So it's I think that's the way it's meant to be.
yeah, you have when I watch you make a decision or when I watch you set goals, like you're such a force and you're so intense in like the most positive way because your boundaries of reality like almost don't exist. Like literally in your mind, I feel like it's just limitless possibilities, which is fantastic. And that's been another big impact you've had is I feel like all of us kind of inherently have these built-in boundaries that our parents established for us or that we've developed over time because of failures, whatever. And you've like cracked those open for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we would not be living in this house had it not been for you and your encouragement and like challenging me. You've challenged me in so many different ways. One of the things going back to you spending time with the 5 or you are who.
Let me say one more thing.
Okay,
so
go.
while you were at training camp with the Redskins, I mean, Chelsea and Shawn, I literally had a whole conversation about, Andrew for president. So, I mean, but I'm not kidding. Like we were like, man, and like, anyways.
Stop.
So
Appreciate that.
but go ahead.
That's hilarious. I remember you telling me a story of you reaching out to a pastor who you really admired and moving up to live with them, I believe, for an extended period of time, maybe a month or maybe more. Tell us about what sparked that, because you have this sense of urgency. Like when we say, hey, let's take a double date trip somewhere with Chelsea and Shawn. I say that, but then sometimes I don't pull out the calendar and like actually put it on the calendar. With you, it's okay, guys, let's do a double date trip. Pull out your calendars. We're booking it right now. And like you have this sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Tell us the story of you going to live with that pastor.
So anyway, it was actually a doctor, but he was an amazing Christian doctor,
Yeah.
and he lived in Chicago, and so and I do this sometimes. Now in this case, it was living with him, and I asked to intern with him, and he said, and he was nice enough to invite me to, but I just said. And this is very unfortunate. This is a mentor of mine who passed away just 2 years ago, and it's been really unique because he's got a son in high school now who I've been able to mentor. So it was a really I just did a call with him last week. His name's Caleb Majors, but Charles Majors, I was able to go up and live with him. And it was the same thing. This is an example. So he would wake up every morning, and we would start off doing a veggie juice. We just down this green juice of kale and cucumber and celery and ginger, and then we would go on the treadmill. We'd do this burst training 20-minute workout, and then we'd spend time. We'd have a whole 45 minutes to an hour of reading a personal growth book. So like when I lived with him, I read like a book a week because he would be like, okay, you read an hour a day. Or hour in the morning and 30 minutes to an hour at night. So literally every single week. And then he would have me write a book summary and go over it with me. But it was such an impactful experience. So for me, there's a story in the Bible when they talk about this term. It's called chutzpah, and it's a Jewish Jewish terminology. And chutzpah basically means bold persistence. Okay, and so for me, again, one of the things that I just was learning had imparted to me is that, if you want something, you continually go after it. And so I'm trying not to, because I could talk for an hour about this. But all that being said, I think for me, I'm just bold in what I ask because we've heard my dad used to always say this to me. He was like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's that sort of mentality. I heard this recently from a really brilliant businessman and his daughter. His daughter said every night they would sit down at the dinner table, and her dad would say, what did you win and what did you fail at today? She would say, hey, here's what I wanted, here's what I failed at. And he would always encourage her, failure's okay, I'm so glad you tried. Versus some people see failure as it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Her dad, and I think now I read she's a CEO of a company, like a Fortune 500 company, but for her, she was taught, you should be failing. It's okay to fail. Everybody fails, but failure is part of winning. So yeah,
that's huge. I would also love you to tell a story of how you learned the habit of your follow-up. Like when you say, I'm going to pray for you, I know that you're actually going to pray for me. You know what I'm saying? And when you say, I would love for you to connect me with that person, I want to write a health plan. Yeah. I know you're actually going to write a health plan probably within the next half hour. Yeah. How have you developed that?
I think a few things. Let me just say the biggest thing that helps with that. It's not having a million things going on in your life. I think saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. And I love the book Good to Great. He says, in order to say yes to great, you have to say no to a lot of good. And so for me, I'm very conscious about, I don't try and be friends with 1,000 people. I'm very conscious of, hey, maybe there's 5 or 6 people that I'm very conscious of. I would rather go very deep than go very wide with people in terms of relationships. And so that being said, I really look at my life and I say, okay, and I'm just wired like this. I'm very planned and strategic, but I also leave room for adventure, creativity, doing other things. But I think I'll give you an example of this. Let's say, for instance, I'll share this year. I have several goals. One of my goals is to help our company, Ancient Nutrition, grow by 50%. Okay, that's one goal. And so what I say to myself is, what are the biggest things where I can operate in my area of strength to help us get there? Well, it's recording videos. It's finishing a book. It's doing leadership development with the team. Anything outside of that, I delegate or really have someone else do. Let's say, for instance, I want to build leaders and help leaders achieve their goals. I can't do it with 100 people, but let's say I'm picking 6 guys or girls that I want to see them achieve their dreams. And I believe for myself, I'll just share this, I'm reading a great book now. It's called Hero Maker, and it's so good that I don't need to be the hero. I don't even want to be the hero. I want to help other people be the hero. I get more satisfaction. I believe we're called to this. I get more satisfaction about seeing someone else win in their business and life or get publicity than I do myself. And so, I think that's another thing too. It's I can't say yes to everybody. I say no to certain things. And some people, especially, I think about this. My mom said yes way too much growing up. Hey, can you drive the kids to soccer practice? Can you bring the snacks? Can you volunteer at school? Can you volunteer at church? And she was teaching, and she was taking care of us kids and doing the lot. That's just a lot of stuff. And a lot of people get in the habit of saying yes to everything all the time. And so they're saying yes to maybe some good things, but if people really want to have the biggest impact in life, I think they say yes to, they're very selective in making sure they're just saying yes to the great things in life. So that may not exactly answer the question, but I just really feel for myself, and then I prioritize. I don't try and do 50 things a day. I try and do 3 things every day. I'm saying outside of, hey, I have my daily habits. And the other way, I sometimes structure my days to where I try and do what are called focus days and free days. Focus days are where I'm getting stuff done. I've got a list of things, I'm getting them done. And the free days are more, or buffer days are more, I have a little bit more spontaneity to do other things. But anyways, I know that was a lot I just said.
That was good.
But yeah.
My goal with this podcast is just to have you share your mindset, because it is, again, so unique. So I think you're doing a good job.
And I'll say this too, my biggest one of our, we have several values within our company. The number one core value is run to win the race. And that essentially means you do everything with excellence. I think we have high standards, and if you hire the right team members, they want to achieve those standards. But that's the other thing too. I think that just as we're talking about mindset, my dad always told me, if you're going to do something, do it 100%, run to win the race. So I think that's another important mindset too that may not be super relevant, but I think that's important to think about. Yeah.
Hey guys, I wanted to stop for a second and tell you about something that Shawn and I have been using for the past week or so, and it's a habit forming program that is focused on significant, lasting goals for a healthier lifestyle. We all know that getting in shape isn't just about losing weight. It's about learning healthier habits and feeling better about yourself, whatever that means for you. Well, what if you could use one program for all your health and weight loss needs? Noom is a training app, it's a calorie counter, and it's a meal plan all in one. Plus, you get a goal specialist, mine's name is Emily, and a community of members to keep you motivated and accountable. Noom is unlike any program I've ever used or seen before. They really focus on your ultimate why to help you understand and motivate your new healthy habits. My goal? Well, it's to help make sure that I can still beat my son in wrestling in 18 years or take my daughter on an awesome outdoor adventure. Noom does a great job at educating and motivating me in a fun way that keeps me coming back. And it empowers me to be encouraged that I can go out and be health conscious. My social life doesn't have to suffer. The app is super easy and gives you a daily list of tasks with a coach and a group, shout out to Rachel and Clarissa, to help you through it. Noom is a habit-changing solution based in psychology that helps users learn to develop a new relationship with food through personalized courses that teach you why you do the things you do and arms you with the tools to break the bad habits and replace them with better ones. And don't be intimidated. Noom just asks you to commit 10 minutes a day, and it's really become a 10 minutes that I've grown to enjoy. You don't have to change it all in one day. Small steps make big progress. Sign up for your trial today at Noom, that's NOOM.com/redirected. What do you have to lose? Visit Noom.com/redirected to start your trial today. That's Noom.com/redirected. The last weight loss program you'll need. It really is awesome, guys. Check it out in the link in the show notes. Not to belabor the point, but my grandpa had a saying of do everything with such excellence that you'd be proud to sign your name to it.
Oh, I love that.
It's great. But you've unlocked this. When you were starting DrAxe.com and when you're managing your writers, you say that you tell them the articles they write need to be the best in the world. And so that's, again, a challenge to me because I think excellence, I'm like, okay, well, what is excellence? Probably, if I had to put a number to it, top 80th percentile, that's pretty excellent. But yours is number one in the world. That's unique. Not everybody has that mindset.
Yeah. And let me say this. I think there's an element of, hey, starting out, maybe it can't be the best in the world, but you're striving to get there. Yeah. You're working hard to get there. That's on your vision. So again, I don't think it's not about being perfect either. It's about I'm striving to be the best I possibly can and to be the best in the world. Yeah. And that's it. Because when I started, like if I go back and watch my first YouTube video, I would probably be embarrassed. But I was working, I was striving. I was working towards, I was working towards that.
Yeah.
And let me say one other important mindset too. If you have team members or people in your life, for me, it's not about me just being excellent, doing things with excellence. It's about me inspiring my team and helping them become excellent, helping them become a hero, helping them become the best in the world. So like I used to write all our articles. And then I realized, you know what, this isn't the most effective way to change the world and to help people heal and get this content out. So I created a playbook where I wrote down, in order to write the best article in the world, what does that mean? And so we start out every article with a medical study proving our point. And then we go over the nutrition facts, the benefits according to all the medical studies. We go over the recipe. So if somebody is like reading about turmeric, but they're like, how do I even, get this into my life? We have a recipe, we have a supplement dosage, we recommend all of those things. So I think that's an important thing to remember too. It's not about, so many people today are just so focused on themselves, on personal growth. How do I grow me? It's important you're investing in yourself, but at the same time, if you're investing in yourself and not pouring into others and helping them achieve their hopes and dreams, I think people are selling themselves short.
You encouraged me to read the book Hero Maker, and
yeah.
I was 3 pages in, and literally when he conveyed his message of the book of like, don't just focus all your energy on you being a good leader, make others. I was like, oh, Josh, that's Josh. Anyway, that's great. So your role within your company's chief visionary officer.
Yep.
Right? And you encouraged me to make a vision board. Talk to us about the importance of that. We talked about before the show, like this podcast is mostly people telling the stories of the transitions they've had.
Yeah.
And I think you provide so much knowledge in how to make that transition effectively. So that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean that was a big thing for me. So I was at a camp, and I had a mentor, and he said, "Hey, just do something for me. Imagine yourself." And he had me visualize different areas of my life. Imagine the perfect, life in 10 years. Your relationship with your spouse, your business life, your recreational life. Like, what are you doing for? And I envisioned all these things. He's like, okay, imagine yourself, getting there. What has to happen? And he had me vision this whole thing. He said, okay, now envision yourself. You never grow. None of those things happen. You're disappointed. Like, he had me visualize my life, like where I'm just what I would see as being a bad, disappointing life. And it was good because it kind of showed me I want to end up here, And so he said, okay, in order to get here, he said, first off, it's important to know where you're going because 90+% of people have never really thought about where they want to get at the end of their life. And I'll share this too. I had both my grandfathers have passed away in the past 5 years, one 5 years ago and one last year. And my one grandfather, I'm just going to share this. Like, I wasn't very close to him. He was a little bit of a grumpy guy. And, and when he died, this was sort of crazy. Like, he kept saying he sees fire. And so I'm not going to say anything else aside from that. But, like, he just, I never really received any value from him whatsoever. I have another grandfather. And no one really, at his funeral, it was sad. No one really said much about him except for... hey, we liked being with this guy. My grandfather Howard, who passed last year, at his funeral, people were, half the room stood up and said, Howard like literally saved my marriage, or he gave me a purpose in life. All these things. So my grandfather, he just ran a campground. Like, that's what he did. You think, like, but my grandfather would go back, he would bring people that didn't have enough food, he would bring them food, he would pray for them, he would help them, achieve their goals in life. And like, so at his funeral, like, it was such an inspiring time and moment. And so I think about for myself, like, I want to be like him. I want to get to the end of my life and I want to have the biggest impact possible. The problem is a lot of people have never thought about it. So their life is running them. They're not running their life. And they have not really thought about what is the plan to where I get to the end of my life and I've had a maximum impact. And I've lived the best life I possibly could, a life where I had joy, but also I blessed others in just an extravagant way. So for me with the vision board, it's all about sitting down and visualizing, what do I want my relationship with my spouse to be? What do I want? Where do I want to go and travel in the future? What do I want my work life to look like? What impact do I want to have? And then I'll write down the vision. I'll turn those into goals. And then I will print out pictures. Maybe I just go to Google Images and print out pictures and put those all on a vision board. And I have my goals on one page, strategy on another, and it's on a cork board surrounded by pictures. And I think if we're talking about, the analogy of life being a race, what's your finish line? Where is it you're trying to go? If you ever ran a race and you don't have a finish line, you just run aimlessly. And so, anyways, all that being said, I think that's been big for me.
The big thing that hit me when we did that exercise was the actual pictures of it, because a lot of times people set goals, but then it's like, what is the beach going to look like when I travel there? Or like, what house do I actually want to live in 10 years? And like, not that the material actually matters, but like, to actually set it in your mind to think about, this is actually what it's going to, if this is my goal, this is what it's going to result in, and have a tangible image of that, which is.
Man, I love my vision board. Like, I like going there first thing in the morning too, and just sort of praying over it and thinking about it. And it's fun. Like, Chelsea and I have some trips on there. Like, I have a picture of New Zealand on there, which we haven't been there yet. I have a picture of going to Israel. I have pictures of, certain business goals, and it gets you excited.
Yeah. And you mentioned the strategy that you put with that vision board. And I was listening to some of your interviews prepping for this, and you were describing how when you were launching drax.com, you said, hey, I want 10 million monthly visitors. So what other websites get 10 million, and how can I model them? How many articles are they putting out a week? And then kind of backing down from there. And the way you described it of, okay, if I need to write 20 articles a week to get 10 million monthly visitors, how much staff is that going to require? And just the way you described it and your systematic thinking is amazing to me.
Yeah, just reverse engineering the plan. So for instance, if somebody wants to, run a 10K in under 40 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is, okay, working backwards, okay, I need to run 4 days a week. I need to do a long run. I need to do an interval run. I need to do a tempo run. With those runs, by halfway through, I should be doing this time. And that's it. So I think, again, strategy is so important, achieving your goals and having, the best outcome for your life. And so, but yeah, reverse engineer. If somebody's watching this and they're saying to themselves, I want to build an Instagram or a YouTube following of 100,000 people. You just need to know, you need to connect with the experts and see, hey, what have they done? What are they doing? I mean, following you and Shawn on Instagram and YouTube to see, okay, what are some things that you guys have done that people really connected with and loved? And the thing why so many people love you guys is you guys add such great value to people's lives, and you guys are authentic. You guys are so transparent and real. So I think people can learn a lot from, modeling. You never want to copy anybody, but modeling what someone else has done for success. I mean, that's in Western culture, just to kind of, pit these against each other. In Western culture today, we're everything we believe and think is based off of Greek thought. Mm-hmm. It's all knowledge. And so we would say something like strong or protection in terms of the words we use. Eastern thought is actually using more pictures to describe things, and their way is modeling. So our educational system is Greek. We don't show you how to do anything. Somebody can be a business professor and never have run a business, so they don't actually have that experience. Ancient culture was much about, hey, you're learning from your father or someone else, and they're showing you every day how to succeed in farming, how to succeed in business, in the marketplace, or as an educator, or whatever it is. Yeah. And so anyways, all that being said, I think that's, I forget my point with that. but anyways, I'll just say this. I do think that it was modeling. It was learning through modeling. But I do think if you're going to win, just reading about things versus, like, for instance, if you guys wrote, here's how to be transparent, I'd be like, okay, versus watching how you guys are transparent, how you communicate, how you and Shawn love each other, show affection. It's like, that's how I learn, and that's actually how most people learn.
Yeah. You also do a great job, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, but your chutzpah in surrounding yourself with the experts that we got into golf a couple months ago.
Right.
And like literally you tell me in the morning, like, hey, I'm into golf. And then you're connected with Ben Crane, PGA superstar,
right,
that afternoon. Like, you're getting lunch with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a certain courage, and you're not scared to reach out.
I'm not. And here's why. This is my mentality. I'm not scared to reach out because I try and be as humble as can. I know that I don't know everything. I know that I'm wrong. And I know that people are smarter than me in most areas. So all that being said, I know that if Ben teaches me, I will listen and I will practice and I will do what he says. And I appreciate that because I've laid out health plans for people over the years where they followed it. And I have never regretted giving time to somebody when I have given them advice and they've followed through with it. You know what I would regret is I give advice to somebody and they didn't follow through and they didn't do anything with it. So that being said, I think I have confidence knowing somebody is going to see the fruit of their labor. So I think, yeah, so I'll try and make it worth their time.
That's good. Can you tell me, okay, so like a lot of people I feel like don't use their luxury time well. What advice do you have for them?
So someone's extra time?
Yeah.
Luxury time? So I would say, I'm thoughtful about this too, like writing down, what do you love doing? Like, what are your best memories? Like if somebody has, like I think about this growing up, like what are my best childhood memories? And for me, it was always doing trips or doing things with people I just love and care about, like people I really connect with. So, and that's what I would do. I would take time and write down, what are your best past experiences? What were you doing? Mm-hmm. And then recreate those in a way. I'll give you an example. Like this October, I grew up in Ohio, so I'm an Ohio State fan, and I'll go with my best friends from high school. We do this every year. We go to, we're going to the Ohio State-Wisconsin game, and we're going to have a blast, and we'll go for a couple days and have fun. Like Chelsea loves New York. We have great experiences in New York. So like, we went with you and Shawn last year, which was such a blast. And man, all the restaurants. And like this time we just went, we cycled through, Central Park and the whole thing. So all that being said, like I'm really proactive about, man, what do I love to do? And also what does Chelsea love to do? And planning that, planning out some of those things in our year of experiences we love to have. We talked about camping. Here's the thing, like I love camping. Like I have some great experiences because my grandparents owned a campground. So we'd camp there, we'd roast marshmallows, we would, like I love it. So I just, we got to think through Chelsea and Shawn, like, because they're not on board. You and me need to go because, I've been wanting to learn a thing or two from the Eagle Scout here.
Yeah, I could teach you. I could teach it out. It does crack me up about you in that you know what you like. And you don't venture too much outside of that. Like you have your restaurants in New York that you're gonna hit every single time, But that's fine. Like that's literally you just love those restaurants so much that you're gonna stick to them.
I'm a little bit more a creature of habit. Chelsea is the super adventurous one, and not to say, hey, I'm down. I'm down for some adventure. I would rather plan it, but I'm down for it.
I think that takes away the whole. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe it does.
Okay. So we'll close out here. I want to know, what goals do you have now?
Wow. So just a few things that I've been thinking through, a couple things. So one would be I want to see ancient nutrition change the nutraceutical landscape. I want to have higher standards. There are standards in the food supply, like, hey, if a food is grass-fed, if it's wild-caught fish, there's different standards Whole Foods has. We're actually partnering with Whole Foods Market, and in the future, we're going to have actually these degrees in supplements. I'm flying out to New Zealand next year, and we, with an Ancient Nutrition Whole Foods, we are creating a whole line of supplements and superfoods that are going to show people that are sourced wild from New Zealand with the highest standards in the entire world. So one, I want to see us with Ancient Nutrition have our products in, we're already in Target, we're in Kroger, but have all of our products in there, be in gas stations, be in airports, just be everywhere, because we create the world's best herbal supplements and collagen and everything else. So I want that to be everywhere. The other big passion I have is, and you and I have connected a lot on this, I want to help leaders create, disciple other leaders and help people live their best life possible. So again, just thinking about, I'll give you an example of this too. Like I went on a mission trip to China 13 years ago, and I was a student, so I didn't have much money, but I gave what I could at the time for this. There was three students over there. One, his name real specifically was Michael. And we paid for them to come over to the U.S. We worked out something with a university. They went to chiropractic college. They then went back to China where they practice today. But I've heard from him a few times over the years. And so he went from having no belief system. I shouldn't say no belief system, but just not having a really strong belief system to he really embraced a relationship with God. He started working on character and leadership development for himself. He came here, went to school, and now he's back there, and he's transforming lives. So for me, that's my greatest, that just gets me excited and happy. And so I want to be able to continue to do more in helping people develop as leaders, but also make other leaders and do things in business the right way. Here's another thing. I think that if somebody is operating a business and they're ruining the environment while they're doing it, I don't care if that's $1 billion business, that's a bad business. Versus if somebody is creating a business to where, for instance, a coffee company, okay, and they're going into South America, they're creating fair trade practices, they're supporting women, making sure they're getting more money, they're putting in a business ecosystem, they're helping that person run the business and create other partners, and literally building and transforming a whole community. Maybe there's a ministry aspect and taking care of people there. But to me, that's a good business. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's one of the other things I'm most passionate about is not just doing business to where you're making money, doing business where you're transforming lives, and not just saying you're doing it with a label, but actually you're literally transforming the whole community. So that'd be another thing that and listen, I could keep going for hours here. Like I want to do a regenerative community in Nashville eventually where we have greenhouses and we have gardens, as part of that. We've got maybe, a winery on a hillside. And it's a whole neighborhood that's all about sustainability. And anyways, lots of plants.
Do you guys think You're gonna stop by the Lord of the Rings set when you're in New Zealand?
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to. So I'm a huge, the dorky side of me, which is, not just the, science part, but it's the Lord. Yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. I love Marvel. I love superheroes, but especially
He
love Lord
likes
of the Rings.
the Twilight series too.
I love anything where people have superpowers.
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 takeaways that you've learned over your journey that could apply to the audience.
Number one, and these are me rephrasing what I said, but number one, you become who you surround yourself with. Take some time today, write down who are those 5 people. Maybe you're not spending much time with them now. Maybe you haven't met them. Maybe you want to get to know them. And it shouldn't probably be this big time celebrity like Andrew. It should be, which I'd rather hang out with you than any big time celebrity. When you're
So you're saying I'm not a big time celebrity?
Okay, you are a
Jeez,
celebrity.
dude. No, come on.
So anyways, but again, I would be real proactive about who are those 5 people you need to spend more time with, who are encouragers, who are going to inspiring you. Be proactive about spending time with them. And and when you're with them, ask some questions, be around, and get some value, but give the value back to them. Be serving them, be caring for them, making their life better. And then write down those, maybe it's 3 people that you know that they're sabotaging you. They're taking your time. They're discouraging to you. So that's number one is write down those 5, get around those 5 people that are going to transform your life. Number 2, make a vision board. I think that's a really big thing. I think taking time and writing down your goals in 5 areas, your spiritual life, your physical life, your financial and professional life, your relational life, specifically with your spouse and kids and closest friends. And number 5, your recreational life, things you want to do, places you want to go, things some of those bucket list things. Like that's the other thing is make a vision board. And number 5 would be, man, do a spiritual triathlon. Start off every morning with being just gratefulness and reading a book that's a personal growth or helps you grow, and spend some time in either prayer or meditation. But I think if people can do one of those 3 things or all of those 3 things, they'll see it'll be impactful.
Can I ask you what your biggest challenge is that you're going through right now?
Oh man, biggest challenge. My biggest challenge right now is it's something I said earlier. It's making sure that I am doing what I'm called to do. There are so many opportunities in life. Listen, I mean, all of us could spend time putting our life in so many different directions. So right now I'm being very prayerful and thoughtful about what I should be doing with my time. Should I be working fully on just our nutrition company, or should I be working on some of the things I have next? Should I be working more on leadership? How much time and how involved can I be at my church? I'm definitely involved, but how much can I be? I'm just thinking about and this is such a big thing. I was listening to a sermon recently by Stephen Furtick of Elevation Church, and he said, the way you pivot now. So imagine a basketball player sort of pivoting their feet. If you decide right now that you're going to have one podcast topic versus let's say you decided to change the topic here, in certain ways or in business or in what you do with your personal life, friends you make, it can change the trajectory of your entire life. And so I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but my point is, and I know that, you can always adjust and shift along the way. But all that being said, I'm just being really prayerful about, how I spend my time and what's next.
And if I could add to that, when you say that, you've told me that every time you're on an airplane or traveling, you're thinking about that. Like that's your time to do that. So it's not like this passive thing. It's like a dedicated time, which again, I think is a key takeaway. But dude, you've shared a lot of great stuff on this, and I appreciate this.
Thanks.
I just want to thank you publicly for being such a great friend, for being such a great mentor, and for all the value you shared with the world, honestly.
Thanks, dude. Well, you're a great friend. Again, we love you and Shawn. And anyways.
Thanks, Josh.
Good.